Well, welcome to Life Experience with William Pelarenos. We are here at the WRMN 1410 AM studios, transmitting from beautiful downtown Elgin. And I am here with Matt, my producer, who just did the show Out to Lunch. Matt, what are we on? Are we on YouTube? What are we on?
We are on youtube.com at WRMN Radio and also on the AM 1410 dial.
Good. How about the phone lines? Are they open?
They are open 847-931-1410. And we also do have the text line at 505-926-1410.
All right. Today's an important topic because as we're passing by high schools, today is the last day of high school for many school districts. Some were a little earlier last week, but today seems to be the last day for many school districts, and you have graduation parties of high school students getting ready to go to college. You got proms going on. And, of course, we can't dance around this issue. You're going to have underage drinking, teenage drinking. And that becomes a problem from some people, and that's the topic today. So if you got any comments, you want to put in any questions you got, I have two wonderful guests today. I have Dr. Terry Collins, who is a retired chemist and a retired executive director of the McCaff organization, whose focus was to prevent teenagers from drug and alcohol abuse. Welcome to the show, Doctor.
Thank you very much. Nice to be here, Bill.
And her husband was very kindly volunteering to join in the discussion today. Welcome to the show, Peter. Thank you, sir. So, yes, that's going to be the focus is underage drinking, teen drinking, alcohol abuse. And what they don't understand is the problems that can lead to because of this teen drinking, excessive drinking, binge drinking that occurs at these type of parties and these weekends. And what we're trying to do is open up the discussion and let parents and grandparents know to have a little talk with your kids before they head out to the graduation party, because alcohol does cause problems. Doc, all these years, for over 10 years, you were part of the organization, and you really did a lot of work trying to prevent teens from alcohol and drug abuse. And this seems to be the time of year where it accelerates. Between now and September with the summer and everything like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you realize that in 2023, 3.3 million youth in the country, ages 12 to 20, reported binge drinking at least once in the past month. And if you think about it, approximately 663,000 kids binge drink on 5 or more days. And binge drinking, that's the kind of drinking kids do, by the way. They don't just sit and sip a beer or sip wine. They binge drink, which means they drink anywhere from 2 to 5 drinks in 2 hours.
Yes, binge drinking can cause, and it will cause in some people, blood alcohol poisoning because they're drinking too much liquor too fast. Their body cannot digest it fast enough, and its fail-safe, the body's fail-safe is really vomiting. And it bypasses that fail-safe because they're consuming it too fast. And we did a show many years ago on television, me and you were together, and I actually showed beer funnels.
Yep, beer funnels.
Where these college kids were taking, like you pour oil in your car?
Yep, exactly. And a long tube.
Yeah, with a long tube, and they pour this down their throats, and they're drinking nonstop beer. And there have been many cases of blood alcohol poisoning, and unfortunately, it's led to hospitalization and sometimes death. And I have some statistics from the CDC, from the Centers of Disease Control, on this issue. And what the CDC says, and these are good key points to have, alcohol is a drug. People don't realize alcohol is a drug. It's a depressant, so it's not a big party, hey, let's get happy.
Well, they think it is. Because in the beginning, what happens is it's a depressant, so it lowers your inhibitions. So all of a sudden, people are talking to one another and having a great time because it lowered their inhibitions where they wouldn't have talked to somebody before. And now they're, dancing with them or whatever.
According to the Center for Disease Control, alcohol is the most common drug used by people under the age of 21 in the United States. And 21 is the legal age to drink. So here we're just focusing on underage kids drinking who may not be used to drinking. Young people who drink alcohol are more likely to develop certain physical and mental health conditions.
Can I add one thing to your statistic? Is that most of the kids are getting it for free because they're going either to their parents' refrigerator, they're going into like a party where everybody is supplying it for them, and so as a result, there's not even a cost involved for them. Some of them.
So according to CDC, about 4,000 young people age under 21 die from excessive alcohol use every year. That has to be a national statistic because 4,000 to lose 4,000 kids is a lot.
It's huge.
So, but nationally, in a country of 310 million, I could see that statistic. So these deaths, which could have been prevented, take the lives of young people too soon. Underage drinking cost the United States $24 billion in the year 2010, which is the most recent data available. 2010, I'm sorry, not 2010. 2010. So the effects of underage drinking. Young people who drink are more likely to engage in risky behavior that can lead to injuries and other health conditions. I actually know of a case of a young man that was intoxicated walking around railroad tracks, and he actually got hit by the train. As a policeman, I handled a lot of people versus trains that weren't suicides; they were just accidents. And to my memory, every single one of them was intoxicated. When I got the toxicology report, there was a high level of alcohol in your system. So it does confuse you and it impairs your judgment. There's no doubt. So now you got adults that have impaired judgment. Imagine dealing with a 15, 16-year-old kid.
Well, that's right. And what happens is that it's not, they don't just die. It's not just death is the biggest problem. It causes injuries. But this impaired judgment can lead to the poor decisions about, unsafe sexual behavior, and drinking and driving, aggressive or violent behavior. So you have, fights that break out. You'll have unwanted pregnancies that'll happen. All of this stuff will happen because of underage drinking. And the binge drinking is really a big deal for, violence, again, like date violence and interpersonal violence. Look at what
adults, and let's just compare adults. Adults, it's very common to have bar fights. It's very common. I was a policeman. I went every weekend. I had at least one bar fight somewhere. Mm-hmm. And here's adults that can't handle their alcohol. We're expecting 17 and 18-year-olds to handle it. And a lot of, and I got my own notes just from my own experience as a policeman when I dealt with this underage drinking, blood alcohol poisoning. They're drinking too much too fast and they could die. And this has been addressed even on television. It's been talked about, and surprisingly, it's been addressed on a soap opera. I follow General Hospital now because I get a lot of questions on there whether those procedures, the legal procedures, are valid. So I periodically follow General Hospital, and they had a 2-segment arc where high school kids went to a college party and started drinking, binge drinking, and where the college kids were used to binge drinking, these high school kids were not. And the one kid overdosed, and he had to go to the hospital because of blood alcohol poisoning. And in the episode, they pumped his stomach. He survived it, but there was kind of a cautious way to tell the viewers, hey, this is what's going on with these high school kids going to these parties. And nobody forces these people. This is all social and peer pressure, Yeah,
and then you have the risk of those kids who start drinking, say before they're 18, and these kids who are drinking, especially middle school, 15, 14, all that, they are at a high risk of developing alcohol use disorder later in life. In fact, they're 4 times more likely to get alcohol use disorder than the people who wait until they're 18 to start drinking, or actually 21. Because, the prefrontal cortex, of your brain, the teenage brain is not developed.
Correct.
And so it doesn't develop until you are in your mid-20s. And so what happens is that, all of the key functions of the front part of your brain, like executive decision-making, planning, making rational decisions, that's not developed. So as a result, you have these kids with undeveloped brains now, having risky behavior with their drinking. It's not a good combination, not a good cocktail.
Well, there's also the issue of the fact that underage drinking for students is really, it deters them from learning as much as they should.
Yes, the CDC puts out that the effects of underage drinking, and this seems to be long-term drinking, not just the binge drinking over the party weekend that I'm focusing on now. But according to CDC, alcohol is the most common drug that young people use in the United States. Young people who drink alcohol, just like you said, are more likely to engage in risky behaviors that can lead to injuries and other health conditions. They're also more likely to experience social, academic, and legal issues, which include more school absences, lower grades, drinking and driving, misuse in prescription drugs. That's a focus too, because sometimes at these parties, there's a mixture of drugs and alcohol. So you've got people drinking, maybe smoking marijuana on top of it, so they're really getting into a level of impairment over the weekend or over the party. And then, of course, you got the prescription drugs that they shouldn't be taking. There's so many issues. There's so many mix and matches that are bad combinations. And it's happening, and it's just a more frequency over the summer. As a policeman, I saw this. I broke up a lot of parties where the neighbors called, and these parties are going on until 2 in the morning, and a noise disturbance. And always somebody ended up at the hospital. I had to call an ambulance for somebody. Somebody was unresponsive. They had shallow breathing. They went, you couldn't shake them awake. And these people are drinking, walking right by these people, and they're laying on a couch, passed out.
Yeah, and you can't understand why people would be sitting there talking and not paying attention to the person who's passed out on the couch.
But the answer is right here. It's impaired judgment. So you got the drinkers who have impaired judgment, not paying attention to their friend who's passed out.
Right, exactly. And the thing is that probably more likely at these summer parties, where it's adults and teens, more likely it's going to be beer and wine. But sometimes, you start doing shots of vodka, and a lot of young people are drinking more vodka. And that's one shot of vodka is very strong. It can change, your brain chemistry.
Well,
so they don't realize that.
It's got more
higher alcohol content. That's
it's based on proof, and the proof is the alcohol content.
Right, twice the percentage of the alcohol.
Yes,
content.
so you'll see how much proof that content is with your drinking.
Well, there's an odd thing about that too. The initial shot that you drink causes an adrenaline rush, which really counter-affects some of the depressant aspect of it for the short term. So you tend to drink more because of these adrenaline rushes.
Yes, well, the saying that I had when we were policemen, when these people didn't think they drank too much, I used to tell them, the first 2 beers go down slowly, but number 3, 4, and 5 come very fast. Because every time I had a DUI, how many did you drink? Always, the answer was 2 beers. 2 beers. They forgot about the other 7. And the other 7 come in real fast when after those first 2 go down slow.
You lose track.
You lose track. You're not focused. Your judgment's impaired. And here I'm talking about adults. So compare that to a kid whose mental functions haven't totally matured and developed. The brain is like a sponge. And when I talk about the brain, it's also mind and maturity and knowledge levels, and we're sending these kids to school to get an education, not to be a statistic in a hospital or in a morgue.
Well, and I want to call attention to the fact that where parents have more control in high school, and even, even the summer right before college. But in college, that freshman year of college is one of the biggest danger zones for drinking.
Yes.
Because kids have peer pressure to do it. They have that increased independence. They might have more stress.
Well, they
because
do
they're
have
doing
more
their-
stress.
Well, they do
more
have
is
more
expected
stress.
of you in college than in high school.
And so that freshman year of high school or freshman year of college, you're going to see many kids who, wind up having to go to a hospital.
Yes, the news magazines like Inside Edition, they focused in September. There's always some kind of a death that occurs from binge drinking. They always make sure they cover such a story. And sometimes it's these initiations, too, from these fraternities.
Oh, fraternity, yeah, right.
They've been, people in fraternities have been criminally charged because somebody died.
As a result of this stuff. Yeah.
Yes, as a result of these initiations, the too much alcohol, and everybody's body's different. You may have a person that has a high tolerance for alcohol because, like you said, they've been drinking from a younger age, or you got somebody that just shows up at school and you're having a big party and he doesn't drink at all. Or
a 5'2", 105-pound girl.
Yes, body
is not
mass.
going to have the same tolerance for alcohol as a 6'2",
300-pound man.
guy. Yeah. and the other thing is, there is a genetic component to drinking. That there's about 50% of people have a genetic, that people with genetic predisposition to drinking, and that's something that parents should be aware of. And
Yeah, I'm getting comments here on my phone. I got that on vibrate here, and I'm getting comments that many people, many kids, let me get my glasses, are used to seeing their parents drinking, and they think that's okay.
Yep.
Yeah, so
That's exactly
you
it.
got, how can I say, a culture thing. Where
Yeah.
you see their parents drinking, their uncles drinking, and they think it's okay, and it's part of the rite of passage.
It's part of living. I mean,
Well, and those kids will be the first to say, you need alcohol to have a good time.
Yes, let me respond to my listener. But go ahead, give me some more statistics while I'm responding here.
So some of it, when you talk about, youth have very easy access to alcohol. Among kids 15 to 17 who reported drinking alcohol in the past month, 84.3% are getting it for free the last time they drank. And in many cases, adolescents have access to alcohol through family members, or they find it through, home. And that's something that parents can do. They can lock up alcohol. They can pay attention if something's missing out of the refrigerator. You can, you can do that without being a policeman. People say, "Oh, I don't want to be mean to my kids. I don't want to do this." Well, this is a time when you have to have some discipline. You have to be able to tell kids, "Hey, you know what? This is not good for you," and be able to have a discussion. Not scream it, but have a discussion and say, "Hey, you know what? This can hurt your brain." And it's something the other thing to remember too is that, alcohol, chronic use of alcohol can actually lower an IQ. So it's something that you learn, your cognitive ability to learn is impaired. And so it's harder for, kids to concentrate if they're worried about, if they have hangovers all the time.
what is
I also got another text about the Good Samaritan law they're asking me about. I don't know if it's called the Good Samaritan law. But there is laws in Illinois that if I'm underage, and we're all underage drinking, and you're passed out, and I call an ambulance for you, I do not get in trouble for that.
No,
Because
you will not be prosecuted, no.
I'm sorry? You will not be prosecuted because I don't think it's called the Good Samaritan law.
It was called the Good Samaritan law, at least in another state. I don't know if it's called it here in Illinois, but it is the whole concept of Good Samaritan law is in effect here.
Because, you know what?
For alcohol.
Yeah, this goes back to an incident in California where the young actress who was Buffy on Family Affair, remember that?
Oh, yeah, Jody.
The girl, Buffy, I think she was
Buffy,
called.
yeah, that's right, Buffy.
And not the Vampire Slayer. This is for us baby boomers.
You're pulling me back too
Look,
far.
I got a smile and a bat.
I was trying to think of, wait, who?
Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Buffy with the two blonde hair pigtails.
If you watch Catchy Comedy or MeTV, there's repeats of Family Affair with Brian Keith. It was in the late '60s and early '70s. It was a television show. And the young daughter, Buffy, when she was a teenager, went to a party and she drank too much, and her friends were scared to call police because they'd be arrested, and she ended up dying. She could have been saved.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And California was one of the first to pass that type of law. Well, we will not prosecute you even if you're underage. So as we're getting ready to call commercial break, we got 2 minutes here real quickly. I want to also say that Illinois a few years ago also passed a law with drugs. If somebody is overdosed with drugs and you're partying with drugs, and I know of a case of this in a motel where a man was partying with a woman, they were doing cocaine, and cocaine makes the heart beat faster. She ends up having a heart attack, and he calls the ambulance for her. He was not subsequently charged with possession of cocaine because of the fact that he called the ambulance for her. So whether it's drugs or alcohol, if somebody's overdosed or they're passed out, just let everybody know you can call the police, call an ambulance without facing criminal prosecution in Illinois.
Yes, definitely call 911 because, the parents are responsible. If you have kids drinking on your property,
Yes. We're going to talk about the two lawsuits that have resulted. How much time we got for commercial?
1 minute.
We got 1 quick minute. We'll be back. Stay with us. We're going to go to a quick commercial break and a quick news broadcast, and we'll be back. I'm here with Dr. Terry Collins and her husband, Pete. Make sure you follow me on Facebook at Pelarenos Police Project. I will be putting more information out there about what we're discussing on these shows. Stay with us. We're here at WRMN 1410 a.m. till 1 o'clock. Feel free to call in or comment.
With your 1410 WRMN Newsflash, I'm Sean Kernan. Brought to you by Wendy's. A Naperville man will spend time behind bars and face a lifelong ban on animal ownership after causing the death of his family's pet dog. 36-year-old Nathan Gonzalez received concurrent prison sentences of 5 and 3 years following a guilty plea for aggravated DUI and aggravated cruelty in separate incidents. Authorities say Gonzalez killed the family's dog, Rocco, after an argument with his partner. Children looking for a summer adventure can head to the Silver Lake in Blackwell Forest Reserve on Sunday for the Just for Kids Fishing Derby. The event runs from 8 to 11 a.m. and is open to young anglers 15 and under. Prizes will be awarded in 4 age groups. Naperville residents can start applying for fall pavilion and picnic site rentals beginning June 5th, while non-residents may submit applications starting June 12th. The popular venues are available across several park locations and perfect for family gatherings, celebrations, or community events. With your 1410 WRMN Newsflash, I'm Sean Kernan.
Progressive knows there are some surprisingly expensive things in life, like fences. A house with a big yard and a white picket fence was always the dream. But then you saw the price to install a fence and you're wondering if the color is driving the price up. Nobody ever dreams of a beige or a gray picket fence, right? So maybe those fences are cheaper. But no, they're not. Then you remember that switching your home and auto to Progressive could save you hundreds and make all your dreams of a fence come true. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates and other insurers. Not available in all states.
Something amazing is happening here. Scientists are using AI to study how whales talk to each other. CDW experts can give researchers the power to process complex data with HP workstations, advanced by AMD Ryzen Threadripper Pro processors. With easier handling of AI workloads, your organization can bring powerful insights to the surface. Make amazing happen. HP, AMD, and CDW. Learn more at cdw.com/HPAMD.
Real estate, be it residential or commercial, is often a person's most significant and priciest asset. Entering into a contract to buy or sell a real estate property is much more than just filling in the missing blanks on the printed contract. It's wise to hire a lawyer to prepare or review the offer to purchase real estate and take full advantage of his legal expertise. With Mark Sheblo, you will gain an attorney with over 26 years of legal practice and one who has helped thousands of clients to buy or sell their homes or investment property. We will safeguard your interests and might be able to even negotiate a better bargain than a client without proper legal counsel ever could. Oftentimes, a prospective buyer will submit an offer without first consulting an attorney, not realizing that once the offer is accepted by the seller, it becomes a binding contract. And the terms of that contract are not easy to be changed afterwards. Likewise, as a seller, you too will benefit from first consulting an attorney before signing. Feel free to call us for consultation at the law offices of Mark Sheblo at 773-775-5050. Our website is sheblolawoffice.com. Mark Sheblo can be reached 6 days a week at 773-775-5050.
This is Sarah Silver with your Fox Valley forecast. This afternoon, mostly sunny with a high near 79. A chance of showers and thunderstorms with gusty winds up to 30 miles per hour. Tonight, partly cloudy with patchy smoke and showers likely before 9 p.m., then a chance of showers. Low around 54. Currently, it is 73 and mainly clear. I'm Sarah Silver on the Talk of the Town, WRMN.
If you have a lot of shopping to do for summer, then you're actually in luck. Because at Macy's, the latest designer trends are here now. From swim and sandals to match sets and linen suits, all for 20% off. But get this, spend $100 and get 25% off. Spend $200 and get 30% off. 30%. So the bigger your summer, the better. Because the more you buy, the more you save. But hurry, it all ends Sunday at Macy's. Savings off already reduced prices. Exclusions apply.
Welcome back to Life Experiences with William Pelarenos. We are live at our studios, WRMN 1410 AM, broadcasting out of beautiful downtown Elgin today. Matthew, are our phone lines still open?
They are 847-931-1410.
Feel free to call in with a comment or question. We're talking about underage drinking during this graduation party, prom party season that's kicking underway today. Today being the last day of school for many public high schools. And my guest is Dr. Terry Collins, a retired chemist and retired executive director of the McCaff organization, whose focus was to keep teenagers away from drug and alcohol abuse. Doc, thanks for being here, staying with the second half.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And her husband, Pete, is here. He throws in a few good comments and zingers while we're going here. You know what? I have loyal listeners that have my cell phone. They're texting me on my phone. We have a text line, folks, set up so everybody can read. What's our text number?
It's 505-926-1410.
Okay. And before we went to commercial break, we talked about the Good Samaritan law. So if let your kids, your sons, daughters, maybe your grandkids, when they're going out to graduation parties and prom dances and all that, let them know if somebody drinks too much. Tell them it's perfectly legal for them to call the police or an ambulance and get this person help, especially if they passed out, they have shallow breathing, they're not breathing well, they're unresponsive, you can't wake them up. Make sure they know that they will not get in trouble. They will not be prosecuted if they're drinking or maybe even using drugs. It's important to get these people medical attention that have overdosed on drugs or alcohol. And you're going to say?
I just want to say one thing. if they are passed out, make sure that you turn them on their side so that they don't aspirate their vomit. That is one of the ways that kids die from that is they're laying on their back and they go to throw up and then they breathe in their vomit and then that is
chokes them.
Aspiration problem. Chokes them.
People did not know that about people. They're drowning in their own vomit.
Yep.
They vomit and the vomit blocks their air passages until about 1981, or it was January 81. I just graduated from high school in 80. So John Bonham, the drummer from Led Zeppelin.
Yeah.
He drank too much at a party, and they had him on his back, and he aspirated. He drowned in his own vomit. In the newspapers, and that was pre-social media. The newspapers and the news stations carried the fact that he should have been turned over on his side, or at least thrown on his stomach, so that vomit can exit his esophagus, so he wouldn't drown in it.
Right.
And because of his death, really, a lot of people became aware of this, and a lot of lives were saved. So,
it's funny though. A lot of things happen, and a big thing happens. People become aware, and then it slowly goes away.
Yeah,
and
well,
I think
that's
we have
why
to always educate. Always educate.
Yes, that's why I periodically, and I try to make these timely. That's why I had to get you here this weekend, because this is the big weekend to discuss this issue: underage drinking, alcohol, binge drinking amongst teenagers. And in September, we'll talk about that, where the college kids go for the first time. And, our phone lines are popping up. I'm sorry. Let's see what the caller has to say.
Hi, welcome to the show.
Yeah, hi. Talking about people getting sick on alcohol and vomiting on their own puke. Hey, I think that's how Jimi Hendrix died. Nobody helped him. Nobody rolled him over, and he would have lived.
We're talking about John Bonham from...
No, but Jimi Hendrix, I think he did die that way.
Oh, Jimmy too?
Yeah.
We'll look it up, but I'm sure you're right. But the one that comes to mind...
He was the best guitar player ever. If they would have saved his life. I mean, he was the best in the world, they say. And they could have saved his life, but nobody took the extra minute to flip him over.
Yeah, and that's right.
Yeah, but a lot of people prior to these famous rock and roll deaths did not know about that. And even myself, being a high school graduate, until John Bonham died and I saw this on the news, I was unaware of it. But it always stayed in my memory. 40 years later, I still remember.
I never knew.
Yeah, I never knew prior to that.
I thought it was drugs.
And that's why we try to get the message.
No, Jimi Hendrix, I mean, anything that causes vomiting could be drugs, alcohol, the combination of both. It's going to, remember, vomiting is the way that your body reacts to getting rid of poisons. And so, that's one of the mechanisms it does. So if you had drank yeah.
There's a difference between a sober man vomiting and somebody who's under the influence of drugs or alcohol, because the sober man, he's aware of what's happening. He's going to the bathroom. He's
leaning over the proper way.
Yeah, leaning over. And I'm going to talk from personal experience. I had food poisoning about 15 years ago. And the vomiting was so intense that it was breaking the little, I had blood vessels around my eyes.
The petechiae, I remember.
Yeah, and it was breaking the blood vessels. And the food poisoning, I ended up going to the hospital. I was in the hospital for 4 days.
Wow.
So, but I was aware of what was happening to me. I wasn't intoxicated. I don't drink alcohol. I didn't drink alcohol back then. But you get somebody who's intoxicated, who's passed out, and they're vomiting. They're not aware of what's going on.
Right. And that's they choke and they die.
Yeah.
Thank you for bringing that up.
Oh, you're welcome. You guys have a nice day and a wonderful weekend.
Thank you too.
Thank you for calling in. Thank you for listening. And we're here live every Friday with different issues.
There you go. Thanks for calling in.
Very good. Very good. So as we were going, the celebrity deaths have brought the focus in on certain issues. And Jimi Hendrix, if he was one of them, but I know John Bonham for sure. But
Janis Joplin too. I mean,
I'm sorry?
Janis Joplin too.
Did she die in vomiting?
No, but she
But I thought she overdosed on drugs.
Well,
Yeah, I think
she was drunk and on drugs.
But the thing.
That's what people don't understand is like you talk about is being a depressant. You do drugs with that, you're just compounding it. The thing about drinking is the mental inability to deal with it.
Yes.
Can we talk a little bit though about some of the things that parents can do?
Sure, parents' roles in this.
Because the parents, you are the best teacher. You can, of your kids, you are, you're their person, man. You're the people that have to tell them about this stuff. And, it's good to, read and everything, but it's really, one is modeling behavior. Kids will do what their parents do. And I watch my grandson. He follows his father around. No, everything he does, everything is perfectly. Now he's a baby still, but you know what? It doesn't stop. Teenagers will look at their parents for, how do I act? So some of the things that parents can do to help their children avoid alcohol is, talk about the dangers of drinking. Talk to them about, what it can do to them. And then talk about drinking responsibly if they choose to drink. And this goes for especially the people that are just over 21. Your prefrontal cortex, that brain is still not developed. You may be in college, but your brain isn't developed yet. And so if you choose to drink, you can do it so responsibly. Parents serving as role models, positive role models in general.
That's the key, is being a role model.
Yeah, right.
That's why we're doing this program today. There's no teenagers listening to us. They're in school.
There's some truth in that.
Yeah. Listen, this show is for the parents and the grandparents and those of you that have nieces and nephews that are going out to proms and graduation parties coming up in the next few weeks. This is for you to tell those kids, hey, don't drink too much. Let's face it, they're going to drink.
Yeah.
Don't drive. I can come pick you up. And if anybody passes out or anybody's in any kind of distress, call an ambulance. You will not get in trouble.
The most important thing is not to make it such a taboo that they don't communicate with you.
Yes. You gotta have a line of communication open, especially now.
And you gotta have regular conversations with them.
But if you
what's
don't,
going on
and you don't discuss these things, parents avoid a lot of, and I understand they don't think my kid's going to do it. But let's face the fact, everybody, I went to an Irish Catholic high school. Come on. Everybody was drinking, but, we got another phone line.
Hi, welcome to the show.
Hey, hello. Can you tell me what time Tradio is on? Is it on every day, or is it just certain days?
So Tradio is usually on Monday through Thursday, 12:30 to 1, and Fridays from 11:30 to 12.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. You have a great day.
Thank you. Bye-bye now.
Hey, can you tell me what time Apolitical Talk Show's on?
Monday through Friday from 4 to 6.
I so not prepared for tonight's episode. Free Speech Fridays. So anyways, as we're continuing with this conversation.
And so, we were talking about talking to your kids. And the other thing you can do is connect with other parents, about how can we, get together. And, a lot of parents have friend groups, just like the kids do. And a lot of times they're the parents of the kids who their friends are. So, one, get to know their friends, get to know their friends' parents, and then talk about it. That helps. 90% of it right there is talking about it. And then, obvious one is to supervise all parties to make sure that there's no alcohol.
I want to touch on that a little bit. There have been cases where parents have had house parties for their kids' friends. And what they're allowing is kids to underage drink in their house. And there have been serious incidents that have resolved from this that have led to deaths traffic accidents, crimes, and they not only resulted in some of these parents being prosecuted, but they've also resulted in a lawsuit. And I know of two come to mind, one in Lake County where somebody hosted an underage drinking party.
I want to say Deerfield, maybe.
Huh?
Deerfield, I think it was.
In Deerfield,
Yeah.
right? And 2 or 3 kids left intoxicated. And and this just from my memory, I'll have to look up the case law on this. But according to my memory here, the parent knew, and he asked the kids. He knew they were drinking, and he let them drive. He goes, "You okay?" And they said, "Yeah, I'm okay." Well, how can you ask an impaired person if they're okay?
Yeah.
You're probably
Especially an
impaired
impaired
yourself.
teenager.
You know, I'm under the influence of drugs or alcohol. It's not like I'm fighting cancer. You know, my judgment's impaired. You know, no, I'm not okay.
And I think they showed that he knew about the drinking because he was the one throwing out the garbage from the cases of beer. You know, the paper and stuff.
Yeah, well,
that was
we'll have to
left
look
over.
up. We'll do some case laws later on in the summer. But that case, he got sued, and there was another case in the south suburbs that ended up in Bridgeview, where a young girl had passed out, and she was sexually assaulted while she was passed out. And even though they prosecuted the assailants at this party that assaulted her, the assailant was found not guilty, but the homeowner, he was sued under his homeowner's insurance policy for that incident, and I believe the payout on that was $300,000.
Wow.
No, I think
well, you have to have control. We're adults. Kids will do stupid things, but we're adults.
Yeah,
My sergeant used to say we're all 3 times 7. So, yes, we're all adults. We're all over 21. If you're going to host an underage drinking party, I would be very skeptical about doing something like this, and I would be very cautious. And I always talk about protecting yourself. I always talk about insurance on these programs. I've talked about car insurance, liability. I've talked about life insurance. I've had insurance agents on here. There's always incidents where you may be sued or you may want to sue somebody. And that's because of, obviously, gross negligence.
Well, there's an underlying thing here that hasn't been mentioned, and that is that our culture accepts too much drinking. I mean, it accepts it, and this is one of the best examples of that. Of why in the world would we want to give a teenager alcohol?
Yeah, it's part of, I've been told this.
It's an acceptance in our culture.
And that's true. I mean, when you think about how towns will have street fairs, very few of them, don't have alcohol. When you think about Oktoberfest or any of those parties, alcohol is it's one of the key factors that are at those parties.
Look at Sunday football games. Every other commercial. What do we got? Corona.
Hey, remember the Hams beer when baseball finally banned from their ads?
The Clydesdale horses, the Budweisers, the Corona beers, the Old style.
Oh.
I don't even know if those beers exist anymore. Those old style.
It's still there from the Sky Blue Waters.
The thing is, it's not that drinking in and by itself is bad.
We're talking about excessive
drinking. And excessive drinking by teens, actually any drinking by a teen is bad for their brain.
Well, I guess how we bring up the word peer pressure.
Yes,
that's what
social influence.
That's what I'm talking about, this acceptance for it. It's okay to drink, but is it necessary for us to socialize?
Yeah, and when we're talking about people pushing the limit, teenagers, underage, low tolerance levels, binge drinking, blood alcohol poisoning, we're talking about the excess. We're not talking about somebody who went to a party and
no, but that's the point.
Actually half a beer.
But that is the point that everybody at that party has no concept of what too much is.
Yes. But not everybody overdoses.
Well, that's true. But,
People
but what
do
I'm
drink.
saying, but like you said, the friend on the couch.
We're trying to prevent these 4,000 yearly deaths of children under 21. So listen, while I was doing some research, I ended up on an AARP website, and somehow I got cross-reference. I was trying to do alcohol consumption overdose, but I got cross-reference, and here's an interesting sideline. There are actually 7 cancers that are linked to alcohol consumption, and I was unaware of a couple of these. In fact, behind tobacco and obesity, alcohol is the 3rd leading preventable cause of cancer. Yet more than half of Americans don't know alcohol consumption is linked to higher cancer risks, according to a survey research study. The research data shows alcohol use increases the risk of these 7 types of cancers: breast cancer in women, colon cancer, esophagus, liver cancer, mouth or oral cavity, throat cancer, and voice box cancer, larynx. So this is right off AARP. They did some kind of a study, or they're quoting a study, and I was unaware of the increase. I always knew about liver cancer, and I wrote a book with an attorney called DUI Jury Trial, and he mentioned to me a few months back that in his 29 years of law practice, the DUI defendants that he's been defending, 7 of them died before trial. Either cirrhosis of the liver or cardiac arrest. Alcohol somehow affects the old ticker too. So a combination, maybe it's a combination of drugs and alcohol, or
alcohol.
Cigarettes and booze kind of go hand in hand.
Yes. You see that on Cheers reruns.
Oh yeah, right. No, but I mean, they do go hand in hand. I mean,
I believe you. I haven't been in a bar. I think the last time I was in a bar, and I don't drink, I just go to socialize. But I think the last time I was in a bar when Leah, when we held the party for Leah. How long ago was that when Leah retired?
Oh my goodness. I would say maybe about a year.
A year. So
Maybe
that's
a little bit less than a year.
And we went over here to Public House, I think, in Elgin.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice place. They had a nice food spread. But, I'd see people outside because, we get the clean air. So there's a dozen smokers outside. They're going back to
the pariahs.
They're going back to drink. And then from the drink, they're going out to have a cigarette. So I told them, why don't you try the food buffet in the corner? But that was the last time I was inside a bar. And it's been a long time. But you know what? I was never an alcoholic. I just stopped drinking, and I never cared for that malt beer taste or that wine taste. I had a sweet tooth, and probably that's why I'm diabetic. I like the Pepsi Cola and the Coca Cola, and we all have our vices, but with alcohol, especially with teenagers, like you said, their maturity levels that increase to the level where they can make wise decisions. So it's up to us as parents, grandparents, uncles, aunts, to let our young ones know that if you're going to a party and there's drinking, then and somebody's not feeling good, somebody passes out, make sure you call
for help.
Yeah, call for help.
Yeah, and I think, too, that this time of year, I think everybody is happy and excited for the future, and that's how it should be. Everybody should be excited for the future, and it's we just don't want to endanger that future. We don't want to endanger that future for our kids by having them, drink or do drugs, and I think that's where we have to, think about them first and think about what we can do to do, a better job of, noticing what's happening with our kids. Like, for example, if you see a kid whose mood changes, or a kid who all of a sudden has academic problems or behavioral problems that they didn't have before, or maybe they're rebellious and they weren't before. A big one is changing the group of friends. that gives you an indication of something going on. But remember, a normal teenager is rebellious and always is, a little moody and stuff like that. But I think that anybody who's using drugs or alcohol is you'll see it more. And parents are the best observers of that. And I think that's where we have to just keep an eye on everybody.
I had a doctor many years ago tell me parents have to be like scientists. They have to coordinate everything. They have to make sure everything is done properly.
You have to be observant.
Yes. But you know what? A lot of parents drop off their kids like you're dropping them off at daycare. Schools are not daycare. Schools are a learning institution, but they also have a social environment. When I had my kids were in high school and I picked them up, I always, what did you do today? What did you talk about? My son has very few words, and I don't know, nothing. Well, make something up, I told him. Make something up. I'd rather hear a lie than just, I'm not a chauffeur. I'm not Uber driver. I'm not driving you home with that conversation. But it's important to have a back and forth with your kids. If you allow a wall to build, that's where these kids are going to fall into the moat, So anyways, with that being said, what do we get, about a minute left?
About a minute.
About a minute. Matthew says a minute. I want to thank Dr. Terry Collins for being here with us and talking about underage drug and alcohol consumption. I want to thank her husband, Pete, for his kind words and words of wisdom at the table here.
Give me a break.
And it's a courtesy all my guests come on. We don't pay these people. They come on as a courtesy to us at the radio station, myself, and to our listeners. They're trying to get a message out. And that's a big message for this weekend with all these graduation parties and proms. Let's make sure our kids stay safe. It's up to us as parents, grandparents, aunts, and uncles to make sure we talk to our kids prior to them going to the party. So with that being said, follow me on Facebook at Pelarenos Police Project. I'm on Twitter at Police Project 1. Stay with us. We got a nice lineup. What's cooking is next. And 4 o'clock, the political talk show with Sonar. Bye-bye.